Day 3 of our walk. We're in the village of Alport, hamlet more like, as we seek to find Florin Castle, as it was known in the movie. In actual real life, it's known as Haddon Hall. So Haddon Hall is where we're looking for. Right now we're heading back into Laff Kildale on the other end of it, looking to rejoin where we left off at near the village of Over Haddon yesterday. Squeeze through there. So Florin Castle, as depicted in the movie, was the seat of Prince Humperdinck, the villain of the piece, ably assisted by his henchman slash torturer, Count Rugen, who was played by Chris Guest, of course. Here we go with these gates for thin people. A lot of the film was filmed there, so all the scenes involving Buttercup with Rugen and Humperdinck were all filmed in the castle. The castle's pretty much almost been left as it, you know, in its sort of state. It's very old castle. So a lot of the rooms are, you know, quite authentic looking, which they use for much of the sort of discussions and arguments that took place between them. They also used all the courtyard scenes were filmed there. Specifically where Buttercup realises sort of how she's wasting herself there, when the crone, the old lady, kind of haunts her in a dream type sequence. That was all filmed there. The storming of the castle at the end of the film, the scene right at the end with the three horses with Montoya and Fezzik. The castle itself dates back to the 11th century, I believe, and it was connected with William Peveril, who was the said to be, anyway, the illegitimate son of William the Conqueror. The castle has been in the same family for 900 years, so there you go. I believe actually the house, they have another country home called Beaver Castle. I think they spend most of their time actually there, as opposed to Haddon Hall, which might explain why it's had so many film productions there, because it has had quite a lot. So we've mentioned before how it was also where Lady Jane Grey was filmed, where Carrie Elwes was discovered by Rob Reiner. 3 Jane Eyres, I believe, have been filmed there. Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth, and most recently the 2019 version of Mary Queen of Scots. And The Princess Bride. Come on, you can fit through this gate. Just. Wow, what a beautiful spot. Pack Horse Ridge. Just negotiated a field with, I think, the entire population of Derbyshire cows in it. Anyway, we made it. See this trig point? 208 metres. From here we should soon get a glimpse of Haddon Hall as we set down through what's known as the Haddon Fields. I can just about make out the top of the hall. Doubt very much that the camera picks it up, but just about see something of the stonework. The only joy she found was in her daily ride. The scene as she rides across the moat there, that was filmed there as well. The battle scenes, the big fight scene, which we haven't mentioned yet. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. That one. Partly filmed there. The death sequence where Montoya finds the inner strength from the chat he has in his mind with his deceased father, who has been murdered by the six-fingered man, Count Rugen. The strength he finds to, despite his injuries, to overcome him and kill him actually took place in Kent, in Penshurst Place. Come on, Gumbo. Yeah, in Kent, in Penshurst Place. But a number of the fight scenes did take place back at the castle. And that fight scene in the script is listed as, well, you know, the first fight scene, first of all, on top of the Cliffs of Insanity. In the actual script it says, what you're about to see is the second greatest sword fight in the history of cinema. The first will follow later. Meaning this one. I think probably irony again, because to me the best one is the first one. That scene at the beginning of the film on top of the Cliffs of Insanity with Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin, who plays Montoya. So they trained for that fight on top of the Cliffs of Insanity for 8 to 10 hours away, 8 to 10 hours a day, sorry, for a number of weeks with Bob Anderson and Peter Diamond. Bob Anderson was a Olympic fencer, a medalist, gold medalist, and he was also the stunt double for David Prowse in The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi for the lightsaber scenes. Let's just get you over here. And Peter Diamond was actually the stunt coordinator for the Star Wars films, and also for Raiders of the Lost Ark. So yet more cinematic heritage. Sorry, it's just a bit overgrown here and it's a bit spiky for the dog. I don't want her to injure herself, so I'm just going to carry her through here. You should be able to get through there. Light at the end of the tunnel. My name is Higgor Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. So Mandy Patinkin, wherever he goes in the world, he's asked to recite that line. And he doesn't mind. He loves it, he says. He says it's such an honour for him to have even been in a film such as The Princess Bride that he's happy to do it as long as he lives. Marriage. The clergyman, beautifully played by Peter Cook in the film. He was just one of the comedy legends to appear in the film. Another comedy legend that was actually rumoured to be asked to play that part was Michael Palin. Marriage. Can see it now. I only lived down the road in Sheffield as well, so perhaps a surprise that he didn't. Marriage. Brilliant. On this little path. Coming back to those comedy legends, of course Peter Cook wasn't the only comedy legend in The Princess Bride. We also had the albino torturer, played by the brilliant Mel Smith. Not a big role, but nevertheless another colourful character that just adds to the whole thing. And then Billy Crystal and Carol Kane. Carol Kane as Valerie, and Billy Crystal as the important Miracle Max. So, with Miracle Max, the story embraces yet another fairy tale trope, that of death cannot stop true love, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. And of course in The Princess Bride, Miracle Max brings Cary Elwes's character Wesley back to life, and Wesley in his inimitable fashion says, death cannot stop true love, it can only delay it for a while. I cannot do that line. Death cannot stop true love, it can only delay it a while. Death cannot stop true love, it can merely delay it for a while. Death cannot stop true love, it can merely delay it for a while. Oh, here we go. So this is our last walk in the White Peak area. Tomorrow we'll see as day 4 move to the Dark Peak in the north, and we'll be in search of Higgor and Carl Walk. Ending our walk here. Look at this new tree plantation. Isn't that beautiful? It's almost like a memorial. Perhaps that's what the world should start doing. Instead of spending loads of money on elaborate funerals, if every time somebody dies they plant a tree, that would be no bad thing, would it? Just the end of our walk, we just popped down to see the other river valley adjacent to Lathkill, this Bradford River, and it is barbed wire all the way the entire length of the footpath. I mean, what purpose is that serving? There's no cattle, there's no sheep. 97% of rivers in England are out of bounds to the general public. 97%. 92% of land is out of bounds. So we have the national parks, yes, but we do not have nearly enough. In Scotland they have the right to roam, which means within reason they can go anywhere they like. How on earth are people supposed to care about nature if you cover it in barbed wire?
There is no planet B, there is no planet blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah blah blah. Build back better, blah blah blah. Green economy, blah blah blah. Net zero by 2050, blah blah blah. Net zero, blah blah blah. Climate neutral, blah blah blah. Our hopes and dreams drown in their empty words and promises.
Yeah, so day 4 of our walk, we've moved forward from the White Peak to the Dark Peak, and we're on Hathersage Moor today. Only featured very briefly in the film, this particular area, but it's very striking the moment that it is featured. So we're heading towards Carl Walk Fort, which was an Iron Age hill fort, they say, although that seems to be very much still up for debate as to when that was first used or what it was used for. And then on to Higgor, which stands at, I think, about 484 metres above sea level, and is one of the 95 ethels, which are some peaks of this area, various tors, and 95 of them. The ethels are named after a woman called Ethel Haythornthwaite, who was fundamental in the movement to develop the national parks. And 1951 the Peak District became the first national park, and in the same year was shortly followed by the Lake District, Snowdonia and Dartmoor. So there are 15 national parks, a variety of different landscapes, moorlands such as this one, wetlands, woodlands, mountains, and they're all maintained, protected by the system, national park system, for everybody to enjoy, which is great. But we mustn't forget that 50% of England's land is owned by 1% of the population, and at a time where we've got a biodiversity crisis, an environmental crisis, it's so important that people engage with this landscape and the natural world, because only by getting them to engage with it will they care about it. And it's never been more important than now for them to care about it. So as great as these national parks are, we need to open it up even more, really, to get people involved. There are other statistics I read the other day that only 1% of the visitors to the national parks are people of colour, which is a pretty worrying statistic. So, we need to find different ways of getting people to engage with the landscape, and filmmaking, of course, is one of those ways. Films, we use the landscape. We like to see the landscape in movies, and bring the kids out, show them, hey, this was where that scene was filmed from such and such. It's a great way to sort of inspire them to want to be out here, rather than just dragging them out for a walk across the rocks. These rocks were where such and such were filmed. Carl Walk Fort right in front of us. This is where that scene where the Dread Pirate Roberts and Buttercup were racing across the top of the rocks. Remember that bit? Her in her red dress, him in his black gear. Yeah, this is where it was. Inspiring. So we can go up and walk along the top of Burbage, or we can walk down in the valley. I think we're going to walk down in the valley. Come on, Gumbo. So there's quite a difference in the landscape around here in the dark peak, as opposed to the white peak where we've been for the last 3 days. You see the dark grit stone everywhere, this heather clad moorland, as opposed to the limestone valleys, rolling hills of the White Peak area. It's gritty, no doubt. The very useful, played its part in the industry, the stainless steel, the production of knives, sharpening the knives in Sheffield. Yeah, well, it definitely did. This is about as close to Sheffield that of the locations in the Peak District that we use, this is the one that sits closest to Sheffield. The whole crew were based in Sheffield. I believe for about 6 to 8 weeks they were there, depending on who you were. And they would all bus in every day to the Peak District. They all stayed at a famous Hallam Tower Hotel, which has a unique history all its own. But it was very famous in the, I think certainly in the 70s, and luminaries such as David Bowie, Pele stayed there. Wow, look at this. So this is Burbage Edge, and beyond that at the top is Burbage Moor. Here we are. Some old millstones here. Look. Gumbo, hey, come on in. So the Peak District National Park is actually the most visited national park of the 15, which is probably because it's adjacent to so many different urban areas, Sheffield, Manchester, Chesterfield, Birmingham, Leicester I suppose. Anyway, so many, it covers mainly Derbyshire, but also stretches into Cheshire, Greater Manchester, Staffordshire and South Yorkshire, so covers a lot of ground, accessible by train, which is great. So I know they do a lot of school trips from the nearby towns and things like that, which is brilliant. They're able to do that. So yeah, this is the most visited national park. In fact, they say it's the second most visited national park in the world, second only to Mount Fuji in Japan. Hello.
Morning.
Hello. Yeah. So it is interesting to me that this amazing landscape that we have is hardly ever featured in movies. Okay, it is printed in The Princess Bride, and that's great, but why is it as a nation we don't want to celebrate the amazing hinterland that we have? When you look at, say, the American movies, particularly the Western, you know, ever since the Western through to the road movies of the present day, you know, from John Ford to Pixar's Cars film, you know, it's about the landscape, it's about this journey, this place that we live, and how we must protect it. You know, it's how do we get through this bracken and that sort of thing. This way, I think, you know, is it because you know, most production houses are based in London? Yes, probably a big factor. Is it because that filming on location is plagued with difficulties, some of which we'll learn more about later today? Gumbo! Too late. Oh, that's a good swim. It's good for you. Good girl. So yes, filming on location is difficult, has its own set of problems, but it also has its own set of opportunities too. Imagine the mise-en-scène of this landscape and what it says. You know, it's perfect for the tone of that film, you know, pirates, robbers, quest for revenge. You know, just here is your stage. You know, go ahead and use it. And yet they rarely do. It's all green screen and CGI, computerized weather and all the rest of it. And yet part of the charm of The Princess Bride, of course, is the fact that it doesn't really do much of that. The bridge, waterway. So ahead of us now is Carl Walk, the Iron Age hill fort. And to our right is Higgor. So as we sort of venture up Higgor, it's a good chance maybe to just talk about the soundtrack of the film. So Rob Reiner was in discussion with a friend of his, Bobby Columbi, the jazz rock fusion drummer from Blood, Sweat and Tears, and he was saying to Bobby that, yeah, I'm looking for a traditional sort of score but with a modern feel or sensibility to it. So he suggested Mark Knopfler. So Mark Knopfler had previously done scores for Cal, Comfort and Joy, and most famously Local Hero, another seminal British classic, for which he won great accolades. So Rob Reiner contacted Mark Knopfler And Martin Opfler said that he'd do it on one condition, that in the little boy Fred Savage's bedroom he would somewhere hide the hat that Rob Reiner wore for Spinal Tap. So he did. So it is there in the film if you can spot it in the boy's bedroom. And not a lot of people know that. Yeah, so despite it only being a short scene, you know, a short amount of screen time, the scene did actually take quite a bit longer than Rob Reiner would have liked it to. And when you're working on location, you do have to be patient because you are dealing with a lot of different factors. Perhaps the most important one, of course, is the weather. You can't really do an awful lot about it. So when you're in the Peak District, the weather's pretty changeable. So it can be thick cloud that can suddenly change to sunshine and vice versa. So they were shooting the scene. I think they started the scene and it was pretty sunny. And then the sun went in, which presented a problem for continuity, and the director of photography, Adrian Biddle, and he says, sorry Governor, you know, can't shoot, light's not right, so they had to wait. Anyway, this cloud just didn't go away, and they were stuck there most of the day, and Rob Reiner got quite impatient, quite depressed about the whole thing. And until Andy Scheinman, his producer, hello, all right, yeah, so Andy Scheinman, his producer, got some juggling balls out and started juggling, which surprised everybody and entertained the crew, and most importantly entertained Rob Reiner. Sun came out and they were able to complete the scene. There you go. The joys of working on location, as we are today. We haven't got wet yet. Our final day, day 5. It's a warm one, and we're starting at ODIN mine in the High Peak area, in the Dark Peak, and this was an old lead mine built in around 1260 that had the peak of its use in the 18th century and was finally closed down in 1847. So we'll just have a little look. Having visited ODIN mine, she's found something much more fun. ODIN mine didn't have much to offer really. What are you doing? So directly in front of us is Moor, which is one of the most well-known sites, visited sites in the Peak District. A stream of people running across the top there. Signs of old industrial activity. Peak District has always had to strike this balance of industry and, you know, maintaining the landscape, mining through to wool and cotton production, you know, where so many people made their fortune thanks to Arkwright's watermill, harnessing the power of water from the hills. So this is the old A625. You can actually smell burning rubber in the air from cars as they ease their way down the come back down the Winnet Pass. So we're walking on the old A625. Look at that, it's a bit of a drop off. It is due to a landslide, finally closed in 1979. There you go. So Cave Dale is the scene where, having chased through all the different places that we've been to, Buttercup and Wesley have an argument on top of this valley, and Buttercup ends up pushing Wesley down the hill, and then as he reveals, he shouts out there the line the two of them share, "As you wish," and his mask also comes off in the process, revealing for certain that he is Wesley and not the dread Pirate Roberts. And so she realises, dives down, and the two of them literally fall in love again together. Life is pain, Gumbo. Anyone who tells you differently is selling something. Or so says Wesley. The funny thing is that Cary Elwes was actually in a great deal of pain when he says that, or when he's at the top of the hillside there before she pushes him down. Because prior to shooting the scene, apparently Andre had been messing around in this ATV that he had, this all-terrain vehicle that he used to, you know, get up and down and around the valleys and whatever, being a big guy. And he was trying to talk Cary Elwes into having a go on this thing, and Cary Elwes said, no, I can't, I'm hurt myself, I'm not insured. Because he was insured, but you know, whilst shooting, but when you're an actor on a set, you're not insured for sort of when you're not shooting, only for when you're actually rolling and that. So anyway, he persuades him through hubris to have a go, and he gets on this thing and he ends up trapping his foot somehow and breaks his toe. So he breaks his toe, and then, you know, he's got the scene, the director's about to arrive and about to go up to the top of the hill, and he's going, what to do? He thinks, oh, I'll get fined, I'm going to lose my job. And anyway, he gets somebody to put a splint on it, and to hold it together, strap it up, and he goes ahead and shoots the scene in agony. And obviously, eventually, Rob Reiner did find out, and he didn't get fired. But you'll notice in the scene there's a point where there's a log up there, and he sort of gently perches himself alongside this log because he's in so much pain. So life is pain, Ernest. Anyone who tells you differently is selling something. Any Game of Thrones fans might recognise this location as well, as they filmed some of House of Dragon in this valley. You can see why. So this limestone gorge is supposed to be full of fossils that were formed some 350 million years ago, and this used to be a coral reef. Makes you feel small. Hello there, little fella. I'm getting better at birds, but I'm not very good really. I had an ornithologist say once that if you only learn one bird call per year for the rest of your life, you'll be doing all right. So I know a few, and I can recognise a few by sight. But must do better, it says on the report. There you go, Gumbo, you can have a drink. Hiya.
Hiya.
No? Don't want one? Surely you do. Ooh. There lies Peveril Castle, one of England's earliest Norman fortresses, built in 1176 by Henry II. Definitely looks like something out of Game of Thrones, doesn't it? watch your step coming down here because it's wet and it's not slippy, but it's a bit slidey. Certainly need proper footwear if you were going to come on this particular trek. Certainly the most advanced, let's say, of the ones we've done so far this week. I was talking to the guy back there, he was very interested in getting a 360 camera, which is what we're shooting this film with. He was asking me some questions. It's nice to see some water. A real cooling effect on a day like this. I don't know which one of these slopes she pushed him down, but certainly wasn't one of these. You'll kill yourself. There you go. Dungeon. When it came to marketing the film and release, they were a bit perplexed by the fact that this was a satirical fairy tale called The Princess Bride, aimed at both boys and girls, but the title certainly implies it's, at least back then, traditionally, dare I say, it was going to not appeal to boys, as the grandson, Fred Savage, at the beginning sort of suggests. What's going on here then? Are we reenacting The Princess Bride here?
Yes, I said as a joke. Can you run up there? Yeah, my nephew's dead.
So are they going to roll? Are they going to roll down now?
Well, I should do, shouldn't I? Roll down.
In the film, they rolled like sausages, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I don't think they rolled from right up there. There you go, drama documentary. Weren't expecting reenactments. Bye. Well, by the way, we are now entering the fire swamp. So in the movie, the fire swamp at the end of the corridor was a matte painting, and then they filmed the fire swamp with its rodents of unusual size, and at Shepperton Studios. Here we go. There's one rodent of unusual size right behind me. So, came to release the film, as I was saying, and they didn't want it to be like a disaster like The Wizard of Oz originally was when it first came out. So The Wizard of Oz, when it's first released in, was it 39, didn't actually achieve any sort of great success until its re-release in 1949, so they didn't want that to happen. Anyway, despite their best efforts, it achieved, sort of mute success, really, okay, but nothing spectacular, despite their efforts. And it wasn't really until the invention of the VCR and later the DVD and subsequent home movie releases that it achieved the cult sort of status that it has, and only seems to grow in popularity from one year to the next. Probably because it's a film that appeals to both grown-ups and children, so generations can share it together. There you go, the limestone way, look. It's the way up there to Peveril Castle. It's not on our tour today. It should just now be a walk, fairly flat walk, a little bit of a climb perhaps, but not much, along ODIN stream. Takes us back to the ODIN mine. So how does one summarise The Princess Bride? I think it stands both as a formal English fairy tale and a satire, with a very colourful collection of characters set against the beautiful backdrop of the English countryside, and nowhere finer than the Peak District. As you wish as to which destination you choose to visit. But in the words of Henry Miller, one's destination is never a place, but a new way of seeing things. So get out there and see them.
Dazzle